Welcome back, seekers of the esoteric, students of the cosmos, and most importantly, those who carry the fire. You are tuning into Obsessed with Leo, the sanctuary where we do not merely read horoscopes, we dissect the very anatomy of the soul. Today, we are exploring a phenomenon that every Leo at some point in their sovereign journey encounters. It is a recurring karmic motif, a rhythm in the cosmic dance that feels both validating and profoundly exhausting. We are talking about the return, or the desperate, undeniable gravitational pull that draws those who have walked away back into your orbit. The original concept we are exploring today centers around what has been termed the phantom light. The idea that someone from your past is desperately trying to come back. But as an astrological researcher, I cannot simply look at the surface of this event. We must ask, why? What is the psychic mechanism that compels a human being to retreat into the dark, only to claw their way back toward the sun? To understand this, we must blend the ancient wisdom of heliocentric astrology with the depths of Jungian shadow psychology. We must look at you, Leo, not just as a personality type, but as a living archetype of the solar center. Let us begin our descent into the mystery. Segment 1. The archetype of the solar center and the illusion of independence. To orbit the sun is to know warmth. To leave it is to discover the true, a terrifying vastness of the void. In traditional astrology, Leo is the only sign ruled by a luminary, the sun. The sun does not retrograde, the sun does not alter its course to chase the planets. It simply is, it emanates. From a psychological standpoint, the sun represents the core ego, the pure I am presence, and the principle of individuation. When a person enters your life, Leo, they are not just encountering another human being. On a subconscious, energetic level, they are stepping into a solar system. They are entering an orbit governed by your warmth, your absolute vitality, and your generous life force, what Eastern philosophies might call your prana, or absolute yang energy. You illuminate them. You make them feel seen. The tragedy of the human ego, however, is its desperate need for illusory independence. And the person who left you, this phantom, now lingering on the periphery of your awareness, likely left because the intensity of your light demanded too much transparency from them. When one stands in the full glare of the midday sun, there are no shadows to hide behind. Every flaw, every insecurity, every unhealed wound is illuminated. Why did they leave? The fear of consumption. They mistook your warmth for a wildfire. Did they feared losing their own identity in the sheer magnitude of your presence? The Icarus complex. In Greek mythology, Icarus flew too close to the sun and his wax wings melted. Psychologically, this person may have felt unworthy of your high vibration. They lacked the internal substance to sustain a connection with someone vibrating at your frequency. The illusion of greener pastures. Driven by the restlessness of their own unhealed psyche, they convinced themselves that they could find a similar warmth elsewhere, perhaps one that required less accountability. And so they walked away. They severed the tether. They stepped out of your orbit, believing they were walking toward freedom. But what did they actually walk into? Segment 2, the anatomy of the phantom and the cold reality of the void. Let us analyze the current state of this individual. We call them a phantom because, energetically speaking, they are no longer fully alive. They are operating on a deficit. When you remove a source of profound heat and light from a space, the temperature doesn't just drop instantly, it fades. For a while, this person coasted on the residual energy you poured into them. They carried the ghost of your confidence, the echo of your laughter, the lingering scent of your absolute belief in them. But residual energy is not a self-sustaining source. In ancient Hermetic philosophy, There is the principle of polarity and cause and effect. You were the cause, the generator of light. They were the effect, the recipient. Once the generator is removed, the effect eventually ceases. Now the cold has set in. They are looking around at the relationships and the life they have built since leaving you, and they are realizing a terrifying truth. The world is largely transactional. People give to get. But a Leo in their highest vibration gives simply because it is their nature to overflow. This phantom is experiencing a profound psychological phenomenon known as the nostalgia of the soul. It is not just that they miss your physical presence or your conversations. They miss who they were when they were illuminated by you. Carl Jung spoke extensively about projection. Often we project our golden shadow, our unactualized potential, and our highest good onto another person. But when this person was with you, Leo, your light activated their golden shadow. They felt capable, radiant, and alive. Without you, they have collapsed back into their mundane reality. They are desperate to come back not just to possess you, but to resurrect the version of themselves that only you could bring to life. Consider the implications of this. How much power does it take to sustain not only your own reality, but to act as the energetic life support system for another? To segment 3, the mechanics of the desperate return. Why is this energy manifesting as desperation right now? In astrology, we look at cosmic cycles. Time is not a straight line. It is an Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail. Cycles repeat so that lessons can be integrated. The energetic cord between a Leo and someone they have deeply loved or cared for is rarely severed cleanly. It is forged in the fire of the heart chakra, which Leo governs. Currently, and this phantom is hitting a spiritual wall. They have tried to replace you. They have tried to find your warmth in the flickering light of mere matches, in superficial connections, in distractions, in ego-validating pursuits. But a match is not the sun. A match burns out in seconds and leaves nothing but ash. Their desperation stems from spiritual starvation. So you will notice this desperation manifesting in highly specific ways in the physical realm. The orbital haunting. They are watching your social media, asking mutual friends about you, or showing up in places you frequent. They are terrified to approach the sun directly, so they linger in the twilight of your digital or physical footprint. The manufactured crisis. They may attempt to re-enter your life by presenting a problem only your specific wisdom or generosity can solve. And they know Leo's noble flaw is the instinct to rescue, to be the hero. The echoes of nostalgia. If they do reach out, their communication will be heavily laced with memories. Remember when we... This is a deliberate attempt to transport you back to a timeline where they had access to your energy. But here is the most critical question we must ponder as we analyze this dynamic. Does the sun owe the wandering planet its light? And does the sovereign owe the exiled citizen a place back in the kingdom? Segment 4. The karmic scales and the law of enantiodromia. The pendulum of the psyche demands equilibrium. What flees the light will inevitably be crushed by the weight of its own shadow. To understand why this person from your past is making such a desperate, almost compulsive attempt to re-enter your life, we must look beyond mere sentimentality. We are dealing with the mechanics of cosmic debt. When this individual was in your life, Leo, a profound energetic exchange occurred. As the solar center, you naturally operate on a frequency of generosity. You gave them time, emotional shelter, and absolute loyalty. However, if they walked away, it signifies that the exchange became asymmetrical. They became a receptacle for your light. consuming without generating. Carl Jung utilized a concept borrowed from the Greek philosopher Heraclitus called enantiodromia, the principle that a superabundance of any force inevitably produces its opposite. When this person left you, they swung the pendulum to the absolute extreme of independence and detachment. They sought the cold. But human psychology cannot sustain extreme polarity indefinitely. The pendulum is now swinging back. The coldness and isolation they sought have become unbearable. And their return is not merely a romantic or nostalgic gesture. It is an unconscious, desperate attempt to balance their own internal karmic scales. They are spiritually bankrupt and instinctively returning to the one source they know possesses an inexhaustible reserve of gold. But as an analytical observer of these patterns, I must ask you to consider, is their return a sign of their evolution or merely a symptom of their depletion? Are they coming back because they have finally learned to generate their own fire, or are they returning because their hands are freezing and they need your hearth? Segment 5. The metaphysics of the Leo shield and the closed heart chakra. Let us examine the physical and esoteric anatomy of the Leo archetype. In medical astrology and the chakra system, Leo governs the heart, the spine, and the anahata, heart chakra. When a Leo loves, trusts, or welcomes someone into their pride, their anahata chakra is fully dilated. It radiates a warm, palpable, and protective field. This is why people feel safe around you. However, when a Leo is betrayed, taken for granted, or when they finally realize that a connection is entirely parasitic, a profound metaphysical shift occurs. The Leo does not usually plot revenge. The sun does not need to destroy the planets. Instead, the Leo withdraws their light. The heart center closes not out of malice, but out of absolute, sovereign self-preservation. This creates what I refer to in my research as the Leo shield. When the phantom from your past tries to return, they are operating under an outdated psychological map. They remember the dilated heart. They expect to walk back into the warm, golden rooms of your affection. What happens when they hit the Leo shield? The shock of the mirror. Instead of warmth, they encounter a highly polished, impenetrable surface. With the Leo shield acts as a mirror, reflecting the phantom's unhealed wounds and inadequacies right back at them. The solar flare of boundaries. If they push too hard against this shield, they will not be met with the roaring aggression of Aries or the stinging venom of Scorpio. They will be met with the absolute, terrifying indifference of a sun that no longer shines on them. To a phantom, Leo's indifference is far more devastating than their anger. Anger implies you still care. Indifference means they no longer exist in your solar system. This shield is entirely necessary, Leo. It is the architectural boundary that protects your life force from being continually siphoned by those who refuse to do their own inner alchemy. Segment 6. The energetic crossroads. Distinguishing forgiveness from access. As this person hovers at the edge of your reality, sending out desperate frequencies hoping to catch your attention, you are standing at a critical energetic crossroads. As society, heavily influenced by romanticized notions of sacrifice, often conflates two entirely different concepts, forgiveness and access. As a researcher of archetypal patterns, I must gently correct this misconception, for it is a trap that ensnares many Leos. Forgiveness is an internal mechanism. It is the process of untying the heavy, toxic cord of resentment from your own heart. It is releasing the need for an apology you may never receive. You can, and for your own spiritual hygiene, I should forgive the phantom. Access, however, is a privilege. It is a VIP pass to your solar system. The Phantom is hoping that your noble nature will confuse the two. They are hoping that if they appeal to your magnanimity, you will not only forgive them, but reinstate their access. This is the ultimate test of the evolved Leo. The unevolved Leo, governed by ego and a secret desire to be needed, will let the Phantom back in, enjoying the temporary ego boost of seeing the one who walked away come crawling back. The highly evolved Leo, however, understands sovereignty. You can look at this returning Phantom with profound empathy. You can acknowledge their pain, their coldness, and their regret. But you do not have to open the door. You can say, "I see that you are wandering in the dark, and I wish you well on your journey to find your own light. But my sun no longer rises in your sky." Segment 7. The Archetypal Trickster and the Trojan Horse of Nostalgia. To breach the walls of a fortress, one does not attack the strongest gate. One appeals to the king's memory of peace. When the Phantom from your past realizes that a direct approach will be repelled by the Leo shield we discussed in Part 2, they will unconsciously shift their strategy. They know that your heart, though guarded, is inherently noble. Therefore, they will not approach you as a conqueror, they will approach you as a beggar, or more deceptively as a pilgrim returning to a holy site. This is where the psychological archetype of the trickster comes into play. The trickster operates not through malice, but through a chaotic need to disrupt your current equilibrium to serve their own ends. Their primary weapon in this endeavor is the Trojan horse of nostalgia. You must recognize these specific tactics, Leo, as they are designed to bypass your logical boundaries and strike directly at your heart chakra, the breadcrumbing of shared glory. They will remind you of a time when the two of you were invincible. Leos love a grand narrative. By framing your past connection as a mythic, golden era, they trigger your innate desire for epic romance or profound loyalty. The appeal to the sovereign's pity. They may present themselves as broken, lost, or victimized by the world since leaving your orbit. This is a direct manipulation of your protective instinct. The unhealed Leo ego wants to be the savior. It wants to hear, "You were the only one who ever truly understood me." The illusion of metamorphosis. They will claim they have changed. They will use the vocabulary of healing and growth, attempting to convince you that they are now capable of matching your solar frequency. But as an observer of these cyclical patterns, I must offer a candid truth. True metamorphosis leaves a profound energetic signature. If they had truly transformed, they would not need to aggressively pull you back into their past. They would naturally align with you in the present, respecting your boundaries without desperation. Segment 8. The Vulnerability of the Fifth House. To understand why these tactics are so highly effective against you, we must look at the structural foundation of your sign. In the astrological mandala, Leo is the natural ruler of the fifth house. The fifth house is the domain of romance, creative self-expression, play, children, and dramatic arts. It is the sector of the chart where the ego seeks to actualize itself through joy and creation. Because you operate from this fifth house energy, your default setting is dramatic, open-hearted engagement. You do not want a mundane life. You want a life painted in vibrant colors. The Phantom knows this. They know that you have a secret, a lingering fear of a boring, uninspired existence. When they return, bringing chaos, intense apologies, and emotional turbulence, it triggers that fifth house need for a storyline. Even a tragic or complicated narrative feels more alive to the shadow side of Leo than a peaceful, uneventful void. You must ask yourself, am I entertaining their return because they add genuine value to my life, or am I simply addicted to the drama of the fifth house? Are they a true companion to your soul, or just a familiar actor returning to the stage of your life to perform an old, exhausting play? Segment 9. Anchoring the solar core and the mastery of stillness. How then do you prevent this phantom from draining your light once again? The answer lies in mastering the highest octave of solar energy: stillness. Look up at the sun in our solar system. It does not chase the earth. It does not fluctuate wildly to accommodate the varying orbits of the planets. It holds its center. It burns steadily. Its gravity is absolute because it is immovable. When the phantom attempts to re-enter your life, your ultimate power is not in arguing with them, not in proving how much better you are without them, and certainly not in matching their frantic, desperate energy. Your power is in holding your solar center. Practical energetic anchoring for the returning phantom. Observe without absorbing. When they reach out, I view their communication as data rather than an emotional imperative. You can acknowledge their presence without inviting them into your energetic field. The sovereign pause. Before responding to any attempt at contact, impose a mandatory delay. The sun does not react on demand. This pause breaks the illusion that they still have immediate access to your attention. Evaluate the energy exchange. Strip away the romantic history and look at the current physics of the interaction. Are they bringing wood to your fire, or are they bringing water to drown it? You are being tested by the universe, Leo. This return is not necessarily a sign that you belong together. It is a pop quiz from the cosmos to see if you have finally learned your own worth. If you pass this test by maintaining your boundaries, you signal to the universe that you are ready for connections that match your royal nature, rather than connections that constantly demand your charity. Segment 10, the axis of evolution, embracing Aquarian detachment. To master the fire of the heart, one must learn the cool, vast detachment of the stars. If you find yourself caught in a repetitive loop where phantoms return, drain your light, and retreat to the shadows, you must look at the astrological wheel for the antidote. The remedy for an unbalanced Leo does not lie within Leo itself. It lies directly across the zodiacal axis, in your sister sign, Aquarius. And Leo represents the localized, burning personal heart. Aquarius represents the decentralized, cool, collective mind. When a phantom returns, manipulating your fifth house need to be the hero or the beloved center of their universe, your instinct is to react with pure, localized heat, either intense love or intense anger. Both of these reactions feed the phantom. They are both forms of energetic currency. To break this cycle permanently, you must undergo a spiritual graduation. Then you must integrate the higher octave of Aquarius, objective detachment. When you apply Aquarian detachment to the returning phantom, you step out of the dramatic narrative. You look at their return not as a sweeping romantic tragedy or a profound karmic destiny, but simply as a psychological behavioral pattern. You view them from a cosmic altitude. From up there, their desperate attempts to pull you back into their darkness do not look romantic. They look small, predictable, and ultimately might not your responsibility. Segment 11, Forging the Unfading Crown. This brings us to the ultimate realization of your archetype, the forging of the unfading crown. In the earlier stages of a Leo's evolution, the crown they wear is given to them by their audience. It is made of the praise, the dependency, and the validation of others. When the phantom was in your life, their need for you polished that crown. When they left, the crown tarnished, and your ego suffered. But true solar sovereignty requires a crown that is self-generated. In alchemy, this is the process of turning lead, base human needs and insecurities, into gold, spiritual individuation. What does the unfading crown look like in reality? Self-sourced validation. You no longer require the phantom's regret to validate your worth. Their realization that they lost something precious is their burden to carry, not your trophy to display. Like the economy of light. You become discerning about where your energy flows. You realize that your light is a finite resource in the physical realm, and you choose to shine it only on those who possess the soil to grow, rather than the voids that only consume. The death of the rescuer. You lay down the exhausting burden of having to save potential. You accept that some people are meant to remain in the dark until they learn to strike their own match. When you wear the unfading crown, the phantom's return is no longer a threat to your peace, nor is it a temptation. It is simply a passing comet in the vastness of your established sky. Segment 12, the final boundary and the alchemy of moving on. As we close this chapter, let us address the practical alchemy of permanently closing the door to energy vampires and lingering shadows. You do not need a dramatic confrontation to end this cycle. In fact, a dramatic confrontation is exactly what the phantom desires. It gives them a final burst of your solar energy to feed on. The ultimate boundary is silent, energetic withdrawal. It is the realization that the past is a graveyard and the sun does not shine backward, it only moves forward. If this phantom is currently orbiting you, sending out their desperate signals, let them watch you rise without them. Let them see that your kingdom has flourished in their absence. Forgive their human frailties, acknowledge the lessons the connection taught you about your own boundaries, and then with absolute grace, turn your back to the shadow and face the dawn. Because, dear Leo, the universe has far grander plans for your light than illuminating the regrets of those who chose to walk away. Keep burning, keep ascending, and most importantly, guard your gold. Until next time, seekers, stay sovereign. The open conclusion. We have traversed the mythic, the psychological, and the cosmic dimensions of this returning phantom. We have seen how the mechanics of light and shadow dictate the pull between the Leo and the void. But the beauty of the astrological wheel is that it never truly stops turning. There is always another layer, another transit, another revelation waiting in the stars. The question is no longer why they are returning, but who you will choose to be when they knock. Segment 13, the astrological clockwork. Why are they returning now? The cosmos does not operate on human sentiment. It operates on the precise mathematical laws of cause, effect, and cyclical return. We have established the psychological reasons why the phantom seeks your light, but as an astrological researcher, I must draw your attention to the timing of their return. Phantoms do not reappear randomly. Their desperate attempts to breach your orbit are almost always synchronized with specific cosmic weather. When you notice this energetic haunting, look to the sky. You will likely find one of three transits occurring. The retrograde sweep, Venus, or Mercury in retrograde are the classic catalysts. Retrogrades are optical illusions where a planet appears to move backward, but esoterically they represent a period of forced review. Or the phantom is being dragged backward by the cosmos to review the debts they left unpaid and the bridges they burned. They are reaching out not because they have evolved, but because the planetary friction is making their current reality unbearable. Saturn's audit. If Saturn is making a hard aspect, a square or opposition, to their natal planets or to your natal sun, the universe is conducting a karmic audit. Saturn is the lord of karma and time. It strips away illusions. The phantom is suddenly realizing the stark, cold reality of their choices, and in a panic, they reach for the warmest thing they remember: you. Eclipses in the fixed cross. When eclipses occur in Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, the foundations of the fixed signs are shaken. Eclipses are cosmic wildcards that open and close doors abruptly. The phantom feels the ground shifting beneath them and desperately tries to anchor themselves to your fixed, solar stability. Understanding this clockwork is crucial for your detachment, Leo. It removes the romantic illusion that they simply couldn't stop thinking about you, and replaces it with the grounded reality that they are simply reacting to cosmic pressure they lack the internal tools to handle. Segment 14, the somatic compass, how your body knows, before your mind does. Before the phantom even sends a text, before they view your social media story, or before they casually ask a mutual friend about you, you will feel it. In medical astrology, Leo governs two vital areas of the human anatomy: the heart, the center of vitality, and the spine, the structural pillar of uprightness and courage. Because you are governed by the sun, your energetic field is expansive. You act as a cosmic antenna. When a person from your past begins to direct highly charged, desperate thoughts toward you, they create an energetic tether. Long before they manifest in the physical world, your body will register this intrusion. This is your somatic compass. Watch for these specific physical indicators. The phantom weight on the spine. You may suddenly experience inexplicable tension between your shoulder blades or in your upper back. This is your energetic pillar bracing for an impact or feeling the sudden weight of someone trying to emotionally lean on you from afar. The heart chakra. Flutter. Out of nowhere, while going about a perfectly normal day, but you might feel a sudden rush of anxiety, a skipping heartbeat, or a hollow sensation in the center of your chest. This is not your anxiety. It is the phantom's desperation knocking on the gates of your anahata chakra. The disruption of sleep. The sun rules the waking hours, but when the sun sets, the shadows stretch. You may find yourself waking up at the witching hours, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., with this person abruptly entering your mind. Listen, you are intercepting their frequency when the veil between conscious and subconscious is thinnest. When you experience these somatic symptoms, do not fall into the trap of thinking, I must be missing them. Gently correct this misconception. Ground yourself in reality. You are simply picking up the radar ping of a ship lost at sea. You do not have to launch a rescue boat. In segment 15, the Promethean theft and the refusal of the Nigredo. To truly understand the danger of allowing the phantom back into your life, we must look to the ancient science of alchemy. In the alchemical process of spiritual transformation, the very first and most crucial stage is called the Nigredo, the blackening. It is the dark night of the soul. It is the phase where the ego is broken down, where one must sit in absolute darkness, face their shadows, and burn away their toxic patterns through the friction of their own suffering. There is no shortcut through the Nigredo. The person who walked away from you is currently in their Nigredo phase. They are supposed to be in the dark. It is the only way they will ever learn to generate their own internal light. However, the human ego despises suffering. Instead of doing the grueling internal work, the phantom remembers that you possess the philosopher's stone, the self-generating solar fire. Their return is not an act of love, it is an attempted Promethean theft. Just as Prometheus stole fire from the gods because humanity was cold, the phantom is trying to steal a spark from your solar core so they can bypass their own necessary darkness. If you let them in, if you comfort them, if you give them access to your warmth, you are not saving them. You are interrupting their spiritual evolution. You are enabling their shadow. Segment 16. The ultimate act of sovereign love. This leads us to a profound philosophical paradox that every highly evolved Leo must eventually embrace. Sometimes the highest frequency of love is an absolute, immovable no. We are conditioned to believe that love is always accommodating, always sacrificing, and always open. But the love of the sun is different. The sun loves the earth by maintaining the exact mathematical distance required to sustain life. If the sun gave in to the desire to pull the earth closer, it would incinerate it. By keeping the Leo shield raised, by denying the phantom the unearned access they crave, you are giving them the greatest esoteric gift possible. You are reflecting their poverty back to them so clearly that they are finally forced to confront it. You become the catalyst for their growth, not by holding their hand, but by letting them stand in the cold until they learn how to build their own fire. This is the heavy, magnificent burden of carrying the solar archetype. You must be willing to be the villain in their temporary narrative so that they might eventually become the hero of their own. Hold your center. Let the shadows wrestle with themselves. Your only duty is to shine.